Hello, and welcome to the Ringer NBA show. It's Group Chat. I'm here with Haley O'Shaughnessy.
Just traded you.
Justin Verrier.
Let's go.
Cleveland's own Kevin O'Connor.
What up?
I'm Chris Ryan. We are here on NBA Trade Deadline. We've been on and off live for the last hour and a half because Cleveland blew it up. Cleveland traded 6 players. Or brought in 6 players. I don't even know how many players they brought in. We're going to go over the deal details. We'll talk about some of the smaller deals. We'll talk about the winners and losers of the trade deadline. But everything starts in Cleveland. Cleveland's been the story of the season, bar none. Even though Oklahoma City remade their roster, even though Houston's 25-1 when Chris Paul and James Harden play together, Cleveland, all we talk about. Isaiah Thomas basically talks his way out of this franchise after almost winning the MVP award in Boston last season, comes back, hip injury, playing at 70%, throws Ty Lue under the bus on a nightly basis. Boom. He's gone to the Lakers with Channing Frye and a protected 2018 first-round pick for Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance. But Kobe Altman and Dan Gilbert were not done yet. They then traded for Rodney Hood and George Hill from Utah and Sacramento. Utah got Jay Crowder and Derrick Rose from Cleveland. Sacramento got Joe Johnson from Utah and Amon Shumpert from Cleveland, and a 2020 second-round pick from Cleveland via Miami. Speaking of whom, traded a second-round pick for Dwayne Wade, who leaves Cleveland after just a few months and now gets to go where he had publicly said he would like to finish his career, back home, reunited with Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra, primed to make a playoff run with that interesting team in Miami. So, Justin Verrier, who has been advocating for months, if not weeks, if not months, that Cleveland basically get rid of everything and reboot this entire thing with around LeBron. You got your wish. Is this what you saw?
Guys, I did it. You're welcome.
Spoke it into existence.
Yeah, no, I mean, shouts to Kobe Altman, young Pacino here,
Yeah.
just settling all family business in just one trade deadline. I mean, we don't know if this move is going to make the Cavs much better. I think they're definitely younger. I think going forward, the fact that they still have this Brooklyn pick puts them in better position. But it's an interesting move. I mean, we saw what happened just the other day against that Orlando Magic team that was starting Kem Birch, them just getting run off the floor. So at the very least, I think they have an opportunity to not only be better going into the playoffs, but maybe better long-term and maybe even be able to sell LeBron on another year in Cleveland.
Well, at least it sells him on we are capable of making NBA trades that might work. Kevin, now, what would you describe this Cleveland team as? This is a whole new roster. You've got George Hill starting at point guard. Probably will they start JR at 2 or Rodney Hood at 2? Hood. So maybe George Hill, Rodney Hood in the backcourt. LeBron, a healthy Kevin Love, and Tristan Thompson is the starting 5. You've got Clarkson, Nance, JR, Korver, Osman. It's a deeper team. How would you describe them?
Well, I would say they were old and slow in October, old and slow, in January and in early February, and they're not quite as old and slow anymore.
Okay.
They still have a lot of older players, a lot of slower players, but they also have infused youth. So I think for them, they're just more versatile. They're more flexible with what they can do. You mentioned, will JR start or will Rodney Hood start? Will Thompson start or will it be Larry Nance? Mm-hmm. They can play more small ball 5 lineups, with a guy like Nance at the 5, rather than leaning on just Thompson. I think they have a more flexible roster where Tyronn Lue can get a little bit more creative with the lineups, just as the front office did today with the moves that they made.
Okay, Haley, last night the Cavs beat the Timberwolves in overtime on a LeBron James, Christian Laettner-esque game-winning shot. He backs off the foul line after he wins the game. He goes running over to the Cavs bench. He jumps up in the air, and an image that will haunt me for the rest of my life is Isaiah Thomas running up to him and trying to hug him like a kid trying to wrap his arms around a tree trunk, and LeBron never paying him the least bit of attention for the entire post-game celebration. And then after the game, everybody's singing the praises of Cedi Osman, who came in and was basically Isaiah's defensive sub. And Isaiah said, yeah, he was pretty good, and we are slow and we are old, so we basically need this kid to come in and infuse us. Next day he's traded. What do you think of the failed Isaiah Thomas experiment? And now in retrospect, is what they got back in total enough for Kyrie Irving?
First of all, let's never forget when that clip of LeBron or Kevin Love waiting forever for LeBron to high five him.
Yes.
Pretty much the same thing, except for Kevin Love escaped getting traded.
Yes.
Which we don't know entirely if that was like, oh, don't trade him, or if they just couldn't get anything from him.
Kevin Love, big winner considering the team meeting they had. It sounded like Isaiah was the one yelling at Love.
Right. And
Yeah.
everyone apparently rallied behind that and was really mad at Kevin Love. And now he's like, well, I'm still here. So probably credit to Isaiah Thomas being pretty awful. I do think it's worth the return. I think I'm such a fan of George Hill.
Really?
I know that everyone is saying maybe they won't improve that much, but I think George Hill's really going to shock everyone with how much he energizes the team. He's a really good perimeter defender. He's having his best three-point shooting year in his career. He's shooting 45%. Finally, like, they'll have some additional spacing. So I think that he alone will really put them a notch up.
What do you think about George Hill? I mean, like, it's so funny when these guys who are usually on really competitive, if not title contending teams, then sort of get farmed out to tank teams like the Kings, and the numbers are kind of all off. It's like maybe he's having a great 3-point shooting season, maybe he was the only person on the team who could shoot 3-pointers. I don't know. I assume that he's going to make a meaningful contribution to the team, but he's also a health risk.
Yeah, and that's the big issue there. And you speak about like just some of the numbers. I mean, Avery Bradley wasn't a good defender according to metrics when he was on the Detroit Pistons, as Kevin and Bill will tell us multiple times. But yeah, I think in theory this makes them a lot more dynamic. But as you bring up, the injury risk is still there. These guys are younger, yes, but George Hill has dealt with a lot of injuries, especially last year in Utah. That was kind of why the market seemed to chill on him over the offseason. Rodney Hood, a guy that was due a payday. I believe he's up for restricted free agency this summer. But did the Utah Jazz, again, want to pay another guy who's been injured, a guy who, even when he is healthy, didn't really pop in the way we thought he might, especially with Gordon Hayward going out and him being potentially more featured. So there are risks involved here. I think it's the right risk to take if you're the Cavs team, just because if these guys work, you also have some flexibility going forward. I think the one thing we really need to talk about is just that they still have this Brooklyn pick.
Yeah.
We talked about Dan Gilbert. Like, this is what he wanted out of not only the first trade, but this is what he wanted going forward because he wasn't sure if LeBron was going to stay. And I think the Cavs have done a good job of walking the line. We talk about the Clippers walking the line between, well, we want to play for the future 2019, but we also want to still compete from the playoffs.
Yes.
The Cavs are doing just like kind of a tweaked version of that.
Right. And we said earlier that we're not sure how much LeBron had to do with this, but it's kind of like the best of both worlds because he's been saying all season, kind of in coded words, I need more around me. You know what I mean? Like, you guys have to do something. Like, I'm playing so many minutes a night. And even if he didn't have anything to do with it, now the Cavs are like, look, we have the future more set up than we did before. And also, we've surrounded you with better players and a better chance at getting what you want.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very responsive move from the Cavs. I actually would take a little bit of issue with what you're saying about LeBron this year because I feel like, at least from what I've read, the public statements that he's made have been a little bit more inward looking rather than blaming the team or the coaches. Like, I feel like in a weird way, Isaiah almost made him a bystander. Do you know what I mean? Like, Isaiah kind of took on the role of antagonist this season, really going after Ty Lue's adjustments, basically saying you're not as good of a coach as Brad Stevens. But LeBron has just sort of been like, I got to be better. I got to do this. We have to look deep within ourselves. I'm committed for the long haul in the short term. All this like weird stuff. But I feel like he was like a little bit more walled off this year, which maybe speaks to why this deal works with or without him.
Right. But I think that we're forgetting that Isaiah was only back for how many games? This has all
they were like 15, 16? Yeah.
This has all been kind of like in recent, like even the LeBron like suddenly being kind of despondent has all been like very recent. Yeah. And I think it's all sparked from Isaiah coming back and LeBron kind of realizing, oh my God.
This is it. This is as good as we're going to be.
Yeah, so I think that has a lot to do with it too.
To me, it has almost nothing to do with LeBron.
Interesting.
I mean, it's like they're helping now this season, but they help later too. I mean, whether or not LeBron stays, I feel like this sets them up for a brighter future because they retain that Nets pick, but they also got a really good young player in Larry Nance, who I like a lot. You know, Jordan Clarkson's just okay, but he's still really young. You know, solid player to have on your roster. Rodney Hood, you know, granted he's had the injury issues, and granted he hasn't popped like Justin said. he's also had some games where he does pop. Maybe if you're Cleveland, you're thinking moving forward, well, Hood's a guy that we can keep for, a fair price considering the market this summer, where if we lose LeBron, you might be looking at a roster moving forward with Larry Nance, Kevin Love, Rodney Hood, Jordan Clarkson with a Nets pick coming in. That's not too bad.
It's not bad, man. And you know what? I wouldn't necessarily go out of my way to say Dan Gilbert learned from his mistakes, but maybe he doesn't want to do the feast or famine bit again. Maybe he's like, you know what? Like, we've established basketball as like a popular sport in this city. If I can put out a relatively competitive product, maybe people will come through. And who knows, if I get Doncic, Porter, Trae Young, somebody in this draft, like, I can build my next LeBron. You'll never get LeBron. You'll never have an iconic figure like that. Like, that just doesn't happen.
But you don't need LeBron to win a title. Like that. It might feel like you do if you're a Cavs fan, but you don't need LeBron. I mean, if that Nets pick hits, if it becomes the number 3 pick, or even if it's the number 6 pick, that could be the guy that you build your next title contender with.
You need Kendrick Perkins, though. He's definitely a big part of all of this.
You also need Cedi Osman.
Yeah.
Cedi Osman. I'll never forget last summer, Joe Varden, Cleveland Cavaliers writer, wrote an article that he asked Ty Lue if he ever watched film of Cedi Osman, and he's like, nope.
Yeah.
It's
I
like,
don't know.
about
You know
time that
what,
he's
you know what
playing.
film he's seen of him? Last night. Because last night, after the
good.
game, he was like, I got to play this guy. Wow, he's sick.
What took so long?
KOC.
You got to self-scout your
I want to
roster.
let you go, but I want to ask you one more question. Does this Cavs team, does Brad Stevens and Danny Ainge, do they get to, do they have their like late afternoon walk through Boston Common together? And do they say, man, Cleveland's for real now? Or are they like, we got these dudes?
I think, they're probably feeling, Cleveland's better. But, well, there's more to come. I mean, who's going to get bought out? Will Memphis, think, what, we're not going to re-sign Tariq Evans. Guess we have to buy him out. Joe Johnson could be on the way.
Yeah.
And they just signed Greg Monroe officially. If you're Boston, I think you look at Cleveland and think they're a little bit better.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to add good players midseason, and they added a whole bunch of guys. I mean, they got to build chemistry before April, May, and then Cleveland hopes June. There's no guarantees that the roster clicks in a way that it does on paper. This isn't NBA 2K.
All right, we are back.
Let's go.
With the NBA, the NBA Spice Lord. It's like Dune. It's Jason Concepcion.
Yes.
Spiciest day in a while. Jason, just give me your thoughts like off the bat on like this whole Cavs tear it down, build it back up again.
Arrakis, desert planet, home of the spice. It's truly shocking. I think, the NBA has become such like an year-round league. I think it's kind of rote to say that now, but this kind of thing it's truly wild.
Yeah.
Just like the need to take advantage of LeBron's window. This is like a knock-on effect of the 1+1 deals that LeBron constantly signs and has pioneered, in fact, in order to maximize his leverage. This is incredible. They essentially traded the entire team.
Yeah.
Shouts to Justin Verrier.
They have, I've seen, I think Jason Lloyd or Joe Varden were tweeting about like they might only have 6 guys on Friday.
This is
I can't wait for this game.
They're not, the other guys aren't going to be available until Sunday, so they might go out there with like
I love this.
a bunch of Canton guys or whoever their G League team is.
And tonight, I think it's the Lakers, and that's basic. Well, the Mavs play tonight, and the Knicks play tonight. So
The
it's
Lakers play
basically
the Thunder.
the only people. Yeah, that's basically the only people it affects. Teams it affects.
One of the great unwritten alternate timeline stories is like, what if the Cavs played tonight?
Yeah, it would be phenomenal. And what if
would
like
be
all the G
amazing.
League guys for the Cavs were incredible, like Cedi Osman were, and Ty Lue
Yeah.
was like, wait,
Hold on.
nobody told me these guys were good.
Maybe this is how they got Dan Gilbert to sign off on it. It's like, we're going to fuck over LeBron for a day, but then we're going to be good. Everyone's going to be fine.
What do you think goes on in Kobe Altman's mind right now? Like,
I mean-
this is his trial by fire.
This dude is fucking flexing right now.
Yeah.
He's kicking
He's
back,
happy.
and he's just like, I fucking just got rid of Dwayne Wade.
think
What
it's
up
an
now?
entire-
God,
Entirely
wouldn't you
possible.
be so fearful though? Because Griffin was successful, and then he let him go.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Kobe Altman's going to be gone in 2 years.
Yeah,
that's
he's
the
that-
cycle.
Him
of
and Rich
Cavs
Cho are going to
GMs.
have a food blog. I think that it's entirely possible that the Cavs, and to some extent maybe even the Clippers and maybe other teams we don't even know, Memphis.
Yeah.
There's a couple of teams out there where I'm like, I wonder if there are 2 front offices that work here. Like, I wonder if there's an owner making phone calls and a GM making phone calls, because with the Clippers, they seem to be going back and forth with like, let's remake this roster, but let's re-sign Lou Williams. You know, we're gonna lose DJ for nothing, or we're gonna keep a 30-year-old center who can't shoot free throws. Okay,
Charlotte.
yeah,
There's
exactly.
no reason not to trade Kemba Walker, get off some of those deals, and start anew.
Right, and then with Memphis, who are going through an ownership something. They can't get Tyreke Evans, who all of a sudden was valuable for the first time in 5 years.
This is the most.
They can't get anything for him.
That one is the one that perplexes me, because it's for basically all season, and certainly for the last several weeks, it's been like everyone has been saying Memphis has to trade Tyreke. Memphis has to trade Tyreke. It's just why everybody believes this. He's their piece, their one tradable piece.
Right.
They were shopping deals, lots of interest, and now they're like, oh, we can't. We need.
What are they? Yeah, they're like, what are they expecting? Like, oh, at least we get to unload his like
That's the
2 million
thing.
Yeah,
contract.
it's a
thing.
big.
Okay.
It's like they're trying to sell a used PS4 for retail. And this is the only time he's like, it's like a Marvin Williams situation essentially for Tyreke at this point in his career.
But Haley, you wrote about this week, where there was like all these interesting guys who are now untradeable because they have 2015 contracts.
2016.
Well,
Summer of
yeah, and now it's
2016.
2000, and now
Yeah.
we're talking 2018 economics.
So many
So
bloated
Bazemore, where he is actually the wing that all these teams are like, we could use a little Bazemore out here, you know, like
Yeah,
a
he could have
40%
helped- he could
3-point
have helped
shooter.
A lot of teams. You brought up Philly.
Yeah, Oklahoma, like all these teams who were like, that would be nice, except you have to pay Kent Bazemore $20 million in 2 years, and that guy is basically a role player.
And the thing is, like, Atlanta's trying to unload him. Earlier, there was reports that Travis Shank, is that how you
Shank,
pronounce
yeah.
it? Their new GM was like, hey, guys, everyone's available except for our rookie,
Right.
John Collins. You can have anybody, like, just send me a good deal. And nobody was calling him.
I feel like Tate might have actually written that statement for Travis Shank. He was like the only person who's like, John the Baptist Collins should have gone third.
I think the thing with Tyreke, though, is I wonder how much the ability to just have to pay him immediately kind of factor in. And not only is he a free agent this summer, but he's also on a minimum, so you have restrictions in order to pay him if you have his rights. I think it's only 120%. So actually other teams can pay him more. And so I wonder if the Grizzlies got into a situation where they wanted a pick so badly, they wanted a first, that they were playing hardball, and then they finally got to the end of the line and it's like, oh crap, we didn't get anything.
Yeah.
So I mean, this is just kind of the madness of a
but
deadline.
at the end of it, it's like at the very end, who couldn't you call realizing you couldn't get a first rounder and say, like, oh, take this guy on. He's super cheap.
Well, maybe like Danny Ainge replied back, well, no, it's 5 minutes to the deadline.
Right.
You get Yabusele and that's it. Like, I don't know. This is how some things kind of fall apart.
Jason, I would be remiss if I let you go without talking about the Lakers.
a wonderful
We don't
team.
have all of the incredible Rob Pelinka quotes at hand. When I checked in on the press conference, he was talking about remodeling a home. He was talking about how sometimes trades are win-wins and you get to send Larry Nance back from whence he came, and that Jordan Clarkson gets to go to the playoffs now. I have not yet heard about how they feel about Isaiah Thomas. We talked earlier on the video about how Aaron Goodwin apparently hit up Rachel Nichols all caps and said Isaiah Thomas will not be coming off the bench, and then Luke Walton was like, we'll see about that. So let's talk about the Lakers. Are they, after all the tapping up allegations, after all the tampering allegations, Magic's not allowed to mention any NBA player name by name, but have they just set themselves up to make a run at LeBron and or Paul George this
I
summer?
mean, that's clearly their strategy, and it's the traditional Lakers strategy over the last 15 to 20 years. They're back. They're back selling Los Angeles real estate and trying to get big name guys. I think one of the most exciting things that happens right now in the NBA is Magic Johnson in front of a live mic.
Yes.
I was waiting for him to be like, and this is a great move for us because, hey, LeBron James and Paul George, and then just like hearing like cash register sounds go as like he names dudes. This is clearly they're in the market for stars.
Yeah.
This is what they've always been doing. I think one of the subplots to watch is the Isaiah starting situation. Is he going to start? come off the bench behind Lonzo. What's LeVar going to have to say about that?
Apparently,
What will-
Magic and Rob said they think he can play with Lonzo and
Sure.
mentor him.
That's
Ooh.
fantastic.
Guys, what's
That's
the
a take.
opposite of Dead Poet Society? Because that is Isaiah Thomas.
Imagine that your mentors being LeVar Ball and Isaiah Thomas.
Lordy. And Kuz just taking
And Coach
snapshots.
just
of him.
roasting you
Yeah,
every
I know,
day
like, all day,
for not knowing
every day.
anything about American history.
Listen, as Jason was alluding to, the Lakers have been selling this for so long. You have
long time.
5 months until July 1st. First of all, you better fucking get this right.
Yes.
And second
Yes.
of all, you better have an IMAX movie
You know
ready
what, though?
to sell
You know what,
LeBron
though?
James.
What if they don't get it right? Is JD Bus really going to fire Magic Johnson?
I honestly don't think they necessarily have to sign a big name this summer. I'll tell you why. I'm serious.
Okay.
Because this is exactly why Bus hired them in the first place. She was like, "Look, my brothers haven't been doing it. Like, you guys have to at least set us up to be the Lakers of old. Like, we at least have to have the chance. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like it's their first year. Okay, like give them time. They've at least done this. They've at least created the opportunity. And at the end of the day, eventually, it's Los Angeles.
Yes.
If it's not this summer, it's going to happen next summer. If
They'll
not-
at least come out of this with Klay Thompson in 2 years or something like that. And you know
This
what?
is
You're right.
exactly why they signed him.
And they have been doing a good job. Like the problem with these guys is they have the franchise history hanging over them.
Yes.
So they can say we want to
Yes.
build the right way. We want to be like Boston. We want to have this deep bench of interesting guys who could be assets or could become real contributors. But like the recent history of this team, specifically the Dream Team, is going to hang over them. And so everybody is always going to assume that Rob and Magic are constantly on the verge of basically being like, do we have to give LeBron James like half of the city to come here, whatever it takes?
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe they have like a more elaborate and elegant plan in place. I don't know.
I don't think they have a plan, just to be clear.
I think the danger is if they strike out on George and LeBron, that they then go bargain shopping and
Yes.
spend too much money.
Yes.
That's the classic free agency
Right.
mistake.
Right.
You miss out on the top tier guys, and now you're looking.
Or
at
they make the
Jabari
same
Parker and
mistake
going,
with Paul George that Indiana
Right.
did, which is thinking that he could be the only, like the number one guy on
Right.
the team when he really is the 1A. He's Scotty. Before I let you go, really quick, Moutier to the Knicks. The deal was, Denver, New York, and Dallas agreeing on a 3-way deal. Sources tell ESPN, Moutier to the Knicks, Devin Harris to Denver, Doug McDermott to Dallas. On one hand, New York's making themselves a clearinghouse for your distressed assets.
Sure.
On the other hand, what are you doing with Frankie if you're bringing Moutier in?
That's the issue. Like, is he going to play behind Moutier? Can they play together? What does this do to his development? I guess like the way you talk yourself into this is, hey, you basically got the 7th pick in the 2015 draft. Great. That of course negates the fact that in that intervening time, Moutier has shown himself to be bad.
Yeah.
So, you know,
thing.
it just all comes down to development. Can the Knicks develop young players? The eternal question.
History says no.
History says no. History says no, they can't. And it's also, you know, I'm getting some bad like Hornacek in Phoenix with too many point guard vibes. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens.
The Scott Perry coming out and saying, I'll evaluate the coach at the end of the season is I would rent if I were you, Jeff Hornacek. Right.
Yikes.
Time to get on Zillow, my guy.
All right. We're wrapping up NBA group chat, but we couldn't do it without bringing on Danny Chau and Paolo Uggetti to join us. I'm still here with Justin. Hello,
Hi.
everybody.
What's up? I'm shaking, but I think it's because I'm just extremely hungry.
Yeah.
I think I'm kind of worn off.
I had to
on the-
steal one of
because of
Colin's
George
protein
Hill?
bars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not because of George Hill.
You're the
Hey.
George Hill. You're
look,
the chief. You're John the Baptist of the George Hill Church.
Correct. And I told John Gonzalez earlier that George Hill is one of my favorite players of all time, and he just shot me a look like I was just completely batshit.
But
But he's not wrong.
okay. So what's the ceiling then with the Cavs with George Hill?
Oh, it's not anything. Like
Oh.
look, I love him as a player. I love him. He's a great perimeter defender. Guy can switch basically 3 positions because his arms are like 8 feet long for a guy who's only 6'3". Great 3-point shooter. I think Haley's covered all of this, but I mean, to be honest,
I think he might be kind of washed.
What's the hunting scene like in Cleveland?
Ohio
big
gets
bucks?
real. You can, outside of Cleveland, you can go 2 hours one way or another and get
know
to a national
nothing about
park.
their landscape.
Yeah, I don't really know either.
Could take him to another level. Just saying.
Of the other players included in that Cleveland, the Cleveland Haul that they got, who's the most interesting person? Is it Clarkson? Is it Nance? Is it Rodney?
It's Rodney Hood. He's the best player who was acquired in the trade deadline, and I think this is the chance for him to show what he can do because he's going to be a restricted free agent this coming summer. He was playing in Utah with 2 extremely tall men who couldn't space the floor. There was no space really for him to do what he does best, which is kind of create off the dribble. He could shoot off the dribble, which is something that you just don't really get with wings nowadays. And even then, he was coming off the bench averaging almost 17 points a game.
Yeah, and he's capable of really going off and getting
Right.
a 30-point night.
I agree with Danny, but I'm kind of intrigued also by Nance, and I'm sure you guys have talked about this. Like, he brings a level of athleticism that I think the Cavs were kind of missing.
Sure.
And he's just a scrappy guy. Like, and he's already buying into it. Like, I mean, his dad played for the Cavs, and he put an Instagram up just now being like, "Oh, I'll be forever grateful to the Lakers," and he #it just a kid from Akron. Which come on, like he's already buying into the bit.
Sure.
I love it.
The
So
land.
I'm intrigued by Nance.
I have something I want to bounce off of you.
Okay.
Does LeBron James make teammates better?
Yeah.
He does?
I mean, maybe not like their confidence and like long term, just because of all the subtweets and shade that he throws out.
Okay.
Like Kevin Love is probably like gonna need therapy for years, but
Right.
I think overall, like he's the guy that's just gonna accelerate your offense for sure. I mean, even in the playoffs.
So there's no danger that we've reached a point where like LeBron is almost in this Kobe zone of it's like LeBron Incorporated and like it's really more about like what LeBron does on a night-to-night basis. And for as much as he's like, I'm invested in this team in the short term and the long haul for this year or whatever the hell that means, that a bunch of these new faces are going to come in and LeBron does the math in his head and is like, yeah, this isn't going to work this year.
I mean, you're going to get a lot of open shots, and that's what we were kind of saying about some of the other options going into the deadline, what we were saying about IT and some of these other guys. Like, you just need to sit there and you need to shoot it. And to a large degree, the Cavs couldn't get that right because a lot of these guys, their legs weren't there. They were past their prime. And like we got to the point in that Orlando game, you said this the other day, LeBron didn't trust any of them to do anything.
Yes.
And so he was just trying to go ISO LeBron, and he was getting D'd up by young Birch.
I think everyone they acquired today knows what their role is going to be on the Cleveland
Danny's
Cavaliers.
getting me fired up for
So,
the Cavs.
The Cavs are going to be pretty good.
Yeah. Look, are they going to challenge the Warriors? No. Are they better than the Celtics or Raptors right now? I don't think so.
Ooh,
But
Raptors.
But I think like
I
there's
knew you were
just
gonna
so
do it.
many. Like we were so worried about how Isaiah would fit in right away with with the Cavs when he came back. What's not to say that you're adding a bunch of like it's like Isaiah's situation. Granted, they weren't injured, but to another degree because you're gonna have to mix in so many new players. Like I'm kind of worried about that in general.
Yeah, just I mean, like, okay, so the interesting comparison point, we've talked about this a little bit, would have been Oklahoma. Oklahoma took, 30 games to start clicking. The defense was working, but they were blow games late. There was a lack of clarity about how their end-of-game offense was going to work. Is Russ going to move the ball, or is he going to go ISO Russ like he did last season? And they seem to have figured out some of that. They always seem to rise to the occasion in big games, but can't seem to take care of business when it's just like beating the Kings or whatever or something like that. With Cleveland, how many games do they need to integrate what is essentially an entirely new roster? And what is this? What kind of test is this for Ty Lue to do this? This is training camp and the beginning of a season in the second half of the season.
I think that's a good point. I think the detractors would say, man, Ty Lue really needs to figure this out. He needs to get these guys in there. On the other hand, they pretty much just run pretty basic stuff anyway.
Right.
So you could just throw guys in. It's almost like Alvin Gentry does, where it's a lot of it's just based on pace, it's spacing, it's just like dribble handoffs and spread pick and roll sort of stuff. You just run a lot of basic stuff. I think these guys are versatile enough. George Hill, Rodney Hood, as Danny alluded to. A lot of these guys could run can be the ball handler, could set some off-screen ball screens. I think a lot of it makes sense.
I feel like the blueprint here is when, the Cavs acquired Channing Frye. He comes in and he's just like, okay, yeah, I'm just going to be
Stand at the top of the key.
pick and pop guy. And it worked perfectly. And that's still what he does. Nothing's changed.
The Warriors have an incredible offense. They have all these different combinations they can throw at you. But essentially, when you get down to it, those three guys are unguardable by five guys, right? So that's the proposition that the Cavs are hoping to make, that if George Hill, Rodney Hood, LeBron James, and Kevin Love are on the floor, you can't guard all of them. And one of those guys will get their basket or at least get a good look.
Right. And it goes back to exactly what Isaiah Thomas wasn't doing, which was making shots. Like He was shooting 30% from
There's
the
no
field.
gravity. He was pulling no
25%
gravity
from
off the
three.
floor.
So if George Hill and Rodney Hood can shoot even just a little better than that, then the offense should work better.
Do you guys have any smaller deals you want to highlight before we go?
Absolutely. The Suns and Magic traded for a swap between. It was a swap between Elfrid Payton and a second rounder, and this is clearly a huge win for both teams. One, because Elfrid Payton was basically ruining
The Magic.
whatever
Yeah.
the Magic were trying to do. You can't have a ball dominant point guard who can't shoot in today's league and expect to be anything more than a cellar dweller. But on the other hand, the Suns were starting Tyler Ulis, who is the smallest player in the NBA, possibly with the frailest frame. And their backup was a guy named Josh Gray, who paid $150 to do an open run tryout at the G League.
I did not
He
know
made
that.
it. He is their second string guy because Isaiah Cannon.
Didn't they have
and-
like 11 point guards in the league?
and
Where's Brandon
it was
Knight?
all
He's hurt.
atrophied.
Have we heard from him in like a year?
Yeah.
No,
It's-
I mean, just like, has anyone checked on him?
Yeah, no, I read
Like,
a USA Today article about him or Arizona Republic article about him the other day. He's like,
There
I'm
you
getting
go.
there.
And so
He's coming back.
you drop in a top 10 pick, albeit
Okay.
one who is very bad. But like, he is better than Ulis
This
at
is
least.
this is the Brooklyn thing. It's like, hey, bring us your distressed first round lottery
Also,
picks.
Look, it gives Elfrid a chance to redo his entire image.
Yeah.
Like, what if he just pins his hair back? This is the suggestion.
That's all
from
I care about.
Jason
That's all
Concepcion.
I care about.
You pin that flap of hair back, and suddenly he either looks like a British sentinel, or you know what? It might look like a pope hat the way
Wow.
it's shaped.
Right, yeah.
Dub himself the young pope.
Change the look of his
The
career
Young
as well.
Pope. That's a
Young
great
Pope.
nickname.
That's
Yeah.
a good nickname.
Paolo, before we go, any deal, either a small deal that you liked or a deal that didn't happen that mystifies you? Like, why didn't this get?
I mean, it's too easy to say Tyreek Evans not getting dealt. I mean, the reports are coming out that basically like they had multiple offers from not just from somebody like Denver who offered Moutier and a second round pick, and apparently they just wanted more. I just don't understand what they were looking for. I mean, Jason talked about the PS4 analogy and all
Yeah.
that. It's just. It makes no sense. Like, what are you going to do with Tyreek Evans? There's so many teams who were willing to give you something for him. Like, this is as high as this stock is going to get. It's just going to drop from here on out. There's no point.
I think the ripple effects are super interesting.
Yeah.
You look at the teams that didn't do anything. The Rockets and the Thunder are pretty much involved in every deadline. I
Right.
can't remember the last time the Rockets didn't swing some little trade. And you wonder, like, yeah, we've talked about 2018 this summer just being just kind of a chilled market because no one's going to have cap space. And, like, sure, maybe this is best for them long term. But I think it opens up really interesting questions. Why didn't they do one thing? Are the Rockets position?
I think it's because they read Zach Cram.
yeah, exactly.
You don't need to make a move.
Yeah.
But
if
like,
you're a finals contender.
Hey, if LeBron isn't going to go to the Lakers, maybe the Rockets, based on not doing anything, have more moves. I also wonder about the bottom of the West.
Yeah.
The Pelicans all of a sudden look very vulnerable because the Clippers still have DJ. They still have enough.
They still have Avery Bradley. There was a rumor this morning that they were looking to trade him for Danny Green and a pick.
Yep.
Which
Yeah.
was like, it's just like I can't believe that Popovich would do that. And he didn't. So
I mean, in that sense, the Warriors are kind of winners. I saw somebody point this out because Avery Bradley didn't go to either the Spurs or the
That's a
Thunder.
really good point.
And
Sure.
I mean, that's just he would have given Steph or anybody trouble on that team. So just the fact that nobody even like tried to one up or get that guy on their team is just like kind of mind boggling.
yeah, I didn't even thought about that.
Yeah.
That is good. I mean, like I think that that Boston and Toronto are gonna have to say, okay, like we're gonna have to do a whole new like scouting run on these new Cavs, and in a 7-game series against LeBron James, anything can happen, as we've seen over and over again. But it will be an interesting challenge to see its continuity versus completely new rosters in the Eastern Conference. Any closing thoughts? Any other check out this or make sure you keep your eye on that going forward?
Rodney Hood, man.
Rodney Hood. I love it. Rodney Hood is
Yeah.
the best player traded on trade deadline as a take.
That's a good take.
Pistons also got James Ennis, which I think is like a sneaky good one at the buzzer, just because like they
And
need
Jameer.
some help.
and Jameer,
Yeah.
I like
They
Jameer
got
on that
Jameer.
team.
Well, yeah, we'll see about that.
Come on. Little Orlando Magic nostalgia, of
There you
course.
go.
I like the buyout market. I mean,
Yeah.
everybody's been talking about how like it's going to be robust and going to be guys out there. You have like Joe Johnson,
Derrick Rose.
Derrick Rose, who's apparently going to go.
Maybe Isaiah
back to-
Thomas.
Yeah, maybe Isaiah Thomas, even though the Lakers said they don't have plans on
Right.
buying him out. Brook Lopez, Corey Brewer, even Joakim Noah. Anybody want to give him a chance?
He seems like a classic, like decrepit person to go be on the Thunder. So take the Kendrick spot. All right. Thank you to Danny, to Paolo, to Justin, to Haley, to Jason Concepcion, and to Kevin O'Connor. I'm Chris Ryan. You can read all about NBA trade deadline today on theringer.com. We have tons of pieces up there. I'm sure we'll have more pods. We have tons of video. Check it out. It was a hell of a day. We will be tracking the ripple effects from this trade deadline for the rest of the season.
You're welcome, guys.